In his monthly address to the nation, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that 600 terrorists were arrested across the country in April, reflecting the efforts exerted and the magnitude of the challenges facing the country, adding that 188 terrorists were arrested in Sinai in a month. He said that 150 terrorist hotbeds were also destroyed in the peninsula. The president said that over 80% of the tunnels in Sinai's border town of Rafah have been destroyed, and he declared that the kilometer-long buffer zone tunnel-free. He noted that the current efforts undertaken to dry up sources of terrorism were not enough and that attempts to renew the religious discourse in Egypt are not up to the current challenge. Addressing corruption, el-Sisi said that the government is fighting corruption on two axes, the first of which is the security and judicial. Meanwhile, the second axis is amending legislations that ease and correct the performance of state apparatuses. According to the president, 344 cases of bribery, embezzlement or profiteering were detected over the past 10 months. He added that lands worth around 3.5 billion Egyptian pounds were restored and 35 kilometer squares of land were recovered. The president said that studies were conducted recently to implement development projects in North Sinai. He noted that fighting poverty, illiteracy, and renewing the religious discourse were integral for countering terrorism. El-Sisi stressed the achievements made so far during the past 10 months, notably in regards to the Suez Canal, saying that 100% of dry digging in the Suez Canal has been accomplished, and according to El-Sisi, the project will be inaugurated on August 6th. A number of world leaders have been invited to witness the great achievement. El-Sisi further highlighted a range of projects in the south and in the field of industry and agriculture. El-Sisi said that a planned national road network was designated to serve many goals, including the linking of Egypt's regions and the creation of new investment zones and job opportunities. El-Sisi added that the government accomplished some 3,200 kilometers or 40% of the network, which would be completed in August. As for the national project for developing the most needy villages, El-Sisi said that the project targets developing 1,153 villages before 2018. The president said that the development of 20 villages, mostly in Upper Egypt, was finalized in 4 months. El-Sisi pointed out that about £500 million have been earmarked for the project. The president stressed that efforts are underway to solve the power section in Egypt. He said that the government has provided 3,600 megawatts for the grid to reduce the power cuts, and by the end of this year, 3,000 megawatts will be added to the national grid.
We're back on the Daily Debate live. Always honored to have with us Mr. Faiz Azzeddin, who is the head of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us.
It's my pleasure to have you.
Well, starting off with Egypt's economic overview, we find that it featured high in President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's monthly address to the nation, stating how the country is moving towards sustainable development, the steps undertaken. How do you see those important features in the president's speech?
Well, it's very important because you see, if we're going back in March, what's happened is a conference, which I think it was the biggest conference I've ever held in Egypt. It was an international one. We had more than 2,500 companies, president, government sectors. All of them came just for Egypt to see what's going on. We have the investment law, which has been done recently. We think that Egypt is going in the right track. We see that President Sisi pushing to have Egypt in the top, which we like that. Also, it's giving a message to the investor, either Egyptian, either foreigner, that Egypt is the right track for a new investment, bringing new, like, if we give an example about the generation in the next year or next 10 years, We're going to have some more projects like the new capital, which are going to be held in the next couple of years. We're going to see power generation, which we have Canada sign a contract with Egypt for $5 billion. It's going to be done this year, and also in the real estate for $2 billion. So, Egypt will benefit from that. And we see, like, if we see the relationship between Canada and Egypt, with Egypt for the first time last year, the trade between Egypt and Canada over $1 billion, which is very good. We see it now, it's $1.1 billion. Egypt export more than $700 million just gold to Canada. I think this is a good sign that the business relation, economic relation between Canada and Egypt, it's in good track.
Great that we hear that the relationship is on the right track. Egypt and Canada, and Egypt and the whole world. The Sharm el-Sheikh conference was definitely a very important step for this sense of openness of Egypt to the world. Mr. Izzeddin, well, tell me more about the Canadians. How do they feel? You are the head of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. How is the beat concerning Egypt creating an atmosphere conducive to development and conducive to more investments?
Let me tell you, these companies, they come to invest here in Egypt, it's a private sector.
Right.
If they are not sure 100% that they're going to get back a return on their investment, security is for their investment is guaranteed, they will never come. I mean, no one will push anyone to invest in Egypt, regardless of any propaganda you do it, unless you have a strong economic atmosphere. Like what's happened before just the conference, Sharm el-Sheikh conference, introducing the investment law, which we like to see it in action now. The tax law, which it's going to have like the maximum 25%, because there was a rumor, is it going to be 20%, is it going to be 30%, is it 40%? So government cut and say it's a maximum 25%. If we're going to see what's happened in security in Sinai, and especially north of Sinai, we see it's going down. The tourist attack. Tourism is in South Sinai is going up, so it's a good track. I mean, we see it's going in a good track. Canada see Egypt is a good opportunity, especially what's happened in the whole region. Egypt is a more stable country, promising. I don't think anyone will think twice before investing in Egypt now, because of all what we see now about the security going in the right track.
Right. What sort of unconventional fields did they put money in, especially after the Sharm el-Sheikh conference? How did it reflect on the sense of economic cooperation between both countries?
As I said, we have these two mega projects about the power generation. Canada is very good also in water desalination. I mean, seawater desalination.
Right.
We need that because we're going to have a shortage of water in the near future. So if we have that, it's going to be a good sign also. We have the mining, which we need the Canadian expertise for this sector. Training, vocational training, we need that. Canada is top on this education, Canadian education.
How about the field of energy? Because we know that investors had praised the fact that the government is working on the 5-year plan to eliminate energy subsidies. And that began last summer, you know. So is there a sense of cooperation in the field of energy also with Canada?
Yes, because the one for $5 billion, which signed in Sharm el-Sheikh, it was for energy using solar power.
Right.
We need a clean energy generation now. I mean, we instead of waiting 7 years to have the atomic energy on to be built in North Sea and North Coast, sorry. So if we have the power generation from the solar, from the wind, we call it like a clean energy. That's what we need. And it's already signed for $5 billion this summit like March.
Right. Boosting spending on infrastructure, how far will this reflect on investment?
Well, we need infrastructure. I mean, we need the power, we need the water, we need the sewage. I mean, we need all of that to build anything. Like if we're going to do the new capital, we need all of that. Canada was here before for some sewage system, clear water system. I mean, we have already some consultant company here, one of the biggest company here. It's already here in Egypt, developed in Egypt, and working in this field. It's already there.
Oh, yeah. The field of education is also quite interesting. And how about the exchange of expertise and involving the youth and people-to-people relations?
We have here two universities here, Canadian University here in Canada. We have some schools which introduce the Canadian system, which we think is very good. Canadian system in education is one of the top. I mean, if we use it here, I think it's education in Egypt, you need a lot of things. I mean, we have some field here like education, like health. You need improvement. Education, starting from kindergarten up to school, university, you need to have it. This system, it has to be implemented in a different way. That's why we see the vocational training is, and the education is very important now, especially if you're going to small and medium industry, which we need it in Egypt. I mean, if we see like one of the country like Canada, 70% in the system is more than in medium and small business entrepreneurship.
Yeah, medium and small enterprises. We'll be talking in depth about that right after this report that targets how Egypt is eyeing a 5% growth in the fiscal year 2015-2016. Let's watch this report and we'll be back.